The European continent was inhabited by many different peoples throughout human history. The first tribe dates back to prehistoric times. The fusion of tribes from different European regions gave rise to many peoples who shared genetic ties, language, and culture, with many religious and social similarities. These tribes had different names, but the ancient Greco-Roman authors called them the Celts. The origins of the Celts goes back to the last Ice Age, with origins in the hunter-gatherer tribes that spread across Europe after the melting of the ice sheet. Among the best-known peoples who share the Celtic culture are the Gauls, Bretons, Belgians, and the ancient Irish. The Bretons were the Celtic tribes who migrated to Great Britain, where England and Scotland are today. The Gauls and the Belgians were the Celtic peoples who lived in the region of Gaul, where today is France, Belgium, and part of Italy. The Celtic culture began to develop around 800 BC with the establishment of trade routes between the tribes and other European peoples. For example, the Greeks, who referred to the Celts as Keltoi, maintained a continually active trade. The Celtic trade lines were incredibly extensive, and Chinese silk fabrics have been found in ancient graves of Celtic nobles. During the Iron Age, the Celts expanded their territories. In 400 BC, they invaded southern Europe, where Switzerland is located today. In 390 BC, they invaded the Italian peninsula and sacked Rome. This left a mark on Roman history and pride, from which that moment on had a great aversion for the people they called barbarians. At the time when Rome began its campaigns to conquer new territories, there were about 44 Celtic tribes scattered throughout Europe. Each had its own particularities in the way they lived and fought. The Celts developed an alphabet known as Ogham, the tree alphabet. The origin of the alphabet is uncertain, and it may have originated from Britain. Julius Caesar commented that the Celts from the tribe of the Helvetians also used the Greek alphabet. Given that this type of writing was uncertain and had variations, not all Celtic peoples used it in the same way, creating some confusion in the historical records. The foundation of Celtic society was agriculture. They grew wheat, barley, beans, and peas, and raised herds of goats, sheep, and cattle. They also made trade possible. Rome, for example, imported grain from various Celtic tribes to support its luxurious city. The artistic style developed by the Celts is remarkably rich and complex, with influences from various peoples, such as the Greeks and Etruscans, but always maintaining its own characteristics. Using geometric designs and spiral figures, the Celts created beautiful images of animals and sacred objects. This type of art is known as Celtic knot, which would later influence the art of the medieval period. The Celts were very skilled at handcrafting metals, including bronze, silver, and gold. They made drinking utensils, decorative pieces, and jewelry of many different kinds. A highly prized ornament of the Celts was torques, a kind of necklace usually worn by men. The most valuable ones were made entirely of gold. The Celts had a proud warrior culture, where they always tried to extol courage and virtue in battle. With this in mind, they produced weapons and pieces of armor that served as war trophies or decorative objects. Many objects have been found in archaeological excavations, among them bronze shields adorned with semi-precious stones, bronze helmets adorned with animal figures, and even highly detailed gold helmets. Many tribal chiefs used horns, horsehair, and bird feathers to adorn their helmets, which gave them a distinctive and threatening look. Women in Celtic society had a special prominence, enjoying an independence uncommon among the peoples of the time. They were entitled to their own land, cattle, and personal wealth. In most cases, they can also choose whom to marry. And if the marriage was not good for the woman, she had the right to divorce them without being judged by others. Some women also learned to fight if they so wished. This was important for their own protection and the defense of their home and children, especially when the men spent a lot of time devoted to hunting or war. It was not uncommon for women to participate directly in war, especially when their entire clan or village was in danger. The most famous of these Celtic warriors was a woman named Boudica from the Iceni tribe inhabiting Britain. After the death of her husband in a battle against the Romans, Boudica and her daughters were imprisoned and humiliated by the Romans. Boudica swore revenge, and, gathering other Celtic tribes, she ravaged 2 Roman colonies, killing all the citizens. One of these colonies was Londinium, where London is today. The Celts used to dye their hair white. Before battle, they also made blue paintings and tattoos on their bodies. These paintings could represent animals or holy spirits. It was a way for them to summon strength and courage at the moment of battle. The Celts also used chariots in battle. Usually, one warrior would drive the vehicle, and the other would throw darts. Chariots were so highly prized that many nobles were buried along with the wheels or even the full vehicle. Some warriors fought totally naked, battling with great fury and terrorizing the enemy, proving that they needed no protection to fight. About the appearance of Celtic warriors, the Roman historian Diodorus wrote, "Their appearance is terrifying. They are tall, with strong muscles under a white skin. They have blonde hair, but it is not a natural blonde. They bleach their hair and comb it back. They look like wooden demons, with their thick, unkempt hair like a horse's mane." But despite their ruthless and cruel reputation, the Celts also treasured music, poetry, and philosophy. The oldest city in France is called Marseille, and during the Iron Age, it was inhabited by a Greek colony. Many Celts visited Marseille to learn philosophy, to learn and to read and write with the Greeks. In their religion, the Celts believed in many gods and spiritual beings. Most of these were associated with the forces of nature and governed the cycle of life. As with most religions, the Celts also had religious leaders and representatives. These were known as Druids. The mysterious Druids formed a priestly caste. Their exact function in Celtic society is still debated by scholars. Some historians consider that they had the role of spiritual advisors and not exactly cult leaders. Their main symbol was the oak tree, which explains the meaning of the word druid, meaning oak root, which refers to a type of ancient knowledge rooted in the soil. The oak was an especially important tree in Celtic religion, and the Druids performed various rituals around or near these trees, as well as collecting the branches of mistletoe to make potions, using small bronze or iron sickles. Druids seem to have been an independent group in Celtic society, not belonging to any specific kingdom or tribe. Still, they were above any king or tribal leader. If a group of Druids voted against a king's decision, he was forced to accept the decision of the priests. Druids dressed in white or light gray. Apparently, they lived away from towns and cities, preferring to live in small groups or even alone in the forest. Although the image of Druids is associated with old men with long beards, there were also female Druids known as Druids. There is evidence that Druids made sacrifices of animals and humans. The Roman general Julius Caesar describes a macabre ritual known as the Wickerman. In this ritual, a large effigy in the shape of a man was built. Inside it, men and women accused of crimes or prisoners of war were incarcerated. In some cases, even innocent people were imprisoned. The effigy was set on fire, and the poor prisoners were burned alive in honor of the god Tyrannus. Although Julius Caesar wrote about this, no archaeological traces of this ritual have been found. It is still an inconclusive account. But then again, Julius Caesar was never known for being a liar or making up stories. The Druids were an important figure in the Celt resistance against Rome. Later, they also resisted the imposition of Christianity in Europe. For this reason, the Druids were considered a serious threat. They were persecuted and executed until they disappeared completely. The Celts did not build temples, but they built many stone circles. Some of them had huge stones with Ogham inscriptions on them. These stone circles were not exactly religious sites, but were commonly used as star observatories. The famous Stonehenge in the county of Wiltshire is not of Celtic origin, dating from the early Bronze Age. However, it may have been a base model for the Celts to create their stone circles. It is also known that the Druids had meetings and rituals at Stonehenge. Unfortunately, much of the Celtic culture has been lost over time. Their songs, poems, and religious practices reached us highly fragmented. But the most troubled period of the Celtic people is well recorded in history, the period when the Celts fought against Rome.